and I am back with another video about the harsh truths of the Selena story. So this is part 3. We're gonna go ahead and begin our conversation and dig right in. And I'm going to pick up where I left off on page 105 of my highlightings. And it says, no way am I living next door to my father, Selena announced. I had some doubts about living that close to Abraham too, given his strong will and his temper. At the same time, I respected the man as both a manager and Selena's father, and I didn't usually feel like he could railroad me. We had developed a mutual respect, and occasionally Abraham called me son. So I think to keep his job and to keep the peace and to respect Abraham out of respect for Selena, I think he kept things on mutual terms with Abraham just to prevent a lot of drama and headache and problems. And I can understand where he's coming from in that sense, because anytime you are dealing with an in-law, it could be very hard, especially if the in-law don't like you, or if the in-law is provoking you, or if the in-law is finding some kind of reason to throw jabs at you because you're the weakest link, whatever the case may be. Or the in-law just simply think you're not good enough for, his son, daughter, or her son or daughter. So he was just pretty much battling typical normal in-law challenges. All right. Next highlighted part says, didn't want to just come in and say, okay, we're married. Now we're going to get far away as we can. That wasn't my style. I wasn't afraid of getting lost or railroaded if we lived next to Abraham. I had a strong sense of self, even at that age. If we do this, we could save up for a house, I pointed out to her. And we see your family all the time on the road anyway. What's the difference? The difference is that they'd be right next door, Selena argued. If we have friends come over or any kind of get together, my dad is going to want to be there. So basically, Selena was making the point that, and this is what I've said in video number 2, is that anytime they have friends or parties or get-togethers, Selena's dad will want to just pop up and show up unannounced and be all in their business and be all in their Kool-Aid, if you know what I mean. And that can get annoying for anyone who has a parent who is smothering them, or a parent who is being what I like to call a helicopter parent. Helicopter parents, they could do a lot and they could cause problems that don't really need to be there. They could unnecessarily do things that's just not even necessary. All right, here we go. In the end, she decided that it made sense to accept her father's offer. That way we could take our time and maybe even build a house we really like, she said. So I think she bought into the idea of living next door to her parents because the whole idea of her being able to save money and Chris being able to save money so they could buy the property that they had dreamed of buying, and buy the property that they had dreamed of living in. So that's what their goal was. Their goal was to go ahead and accept Abraham's plan and offer temporarily, just until they had the funds that they needed to get the property that they wanted to buy. Alrighty. I'm getting a bunch of blanks. I don't think I highlighted anymore. Oh, here we go. The front door slammed so hard that the walls shook. I had been playing guitar, trying to work something out. Now I looked up. Selena? I called. She stormed into the house, but walked right past me without saying a word, her face dark with anger, her hair flying, muttering something I couldn't quite catch. Selena? I followed her into the bedroom, where I had found her just sitting there, her hands balled into fists, tears streaming down her face. What is it? What's wrong? We have to move, she announced. I don't want to be here anymore. I can't stay in this house. Why not? It's my dad, Selena said miserably. We need our own space, Chris. We need to be on our own, really on our own. So this is the point where she probably just had enough, and all of this stress and tension was just building and building and building between her and her father. Her father was the type of person, he was so stubborn, he was not going to take no for an answer. And he was going to keep throwing jabs at her and keep tugging and pushing and pointing at her until she finally just bust and explode. And that's pretty much what I'm getting out of what I'm reading in these paragraphs that I highlighted, is that the relationship between Selena and her father, it was very intense. Abraham wanted to control her life. He wanted to control what decisions she made and didn't make. Selena wanted a way out. Her way out was Chris. Her way out was marrying Chris. Now she's alone and independent. She's still next door to him, which still gives him leeway and access. It still gives him a certain level of control to do whatever and whenever he wanted to do. Selena got to a point where she was frustrated, and she was really, really wanting to just go away. And waiting to save money for this property was beginning to be something that she was growing impatience for, because things between her and her father were getting more and more intense, more and more strenuous, and more out of control. All right. I knew what she meant. She had been living in the house next door to Selena's parents for almost a year, and we often felt like we were being watched. The entire Quintanilla family was still living in the same modest Corpus Christi neighborhood. Abraham and Marcella in one house, A.B. with his wife and kids in another, and Selena and me in the third. Now it looked like Selena had gotten into another argument with Abraham. Most likely it had been about the boutique that she wanted to open. Whenever Selena tried to discuss her desire to get into the fashion business, Abraham's standard response was to try to talk her out of it. What do you want to do for that? What do you want to do that for? He'd say. That's a crazy idea. You're making plenty of money, and you don't have enough time as it is. Why don't you just sit back and enjoy life? So Selena had a dream. Selena had a desire. Selena had things that she wanted to do. It was not singing. Singing was Abraham's dream. A.B. playing the bass in the band and being the music producer of the band, that was Abraham's dream. Them singing and touring and making money for the band, that was Abraham's dream. His children had other dreams, like I said in the previous 2 videos. And pretty much here is just explaining what we already know, right? It mentions this throughout the entire book. Like, it mentions this about how Selena and the rest of her siblings had other plans for their lives, and Abraham had a whole nother plan for their life. And he was pretty much forcing them, and had enough control and power and manipulation to get them to do what he wanted them to do. And he didn't really give them much space for them to just do what they wanted to do. All right, moving on. While some people accused Abraham of controlling Selena and her money, that simply wasn't true. Well, why are you saying that wasn't true if you just said in the previous lines and paragraphs that that's what he was doing? You was describing what he was doing. Now you're saying that's not what he was doing. You know what? I'm getting the sense that Chris is trying to backtrack what he was saying, because he doesn't want to make his book seem like he's painting Abraham out to be a bad person or painting Abraham out to be a villain. And I think he's trying to not piss Abraham off so that Abraham would not approve this book to be published. That's the sense that I'm getting, because he just described to us what Abraham was doing. Now he's saying in this paragraph that's not what he was doing. You guys get what's going on? Chris is holding back some things, and I believe he really wants to say more than what he actually said to us. And I think he really wanted to tell us more, but obviously he didn't tell us more. It's the obvious reason is because he didn't want to piss Abraham off, and he didn't want give Abraham a reason to railroad him from writing his book and getting it published. Let's keep going. I'm going to reread that line. While some people accused Abraham of controlling Selena and her money, that simply wasn't true. Let's keep reading. Whatever Selena and the band earned, Abraham would first take care of the payroll. Then the family split whatever was left in 4 equal parts. They divided the money from the Coca-Cola sponsorship as well, with the family splitting the first 3 payments in a year 3 ways and Selena keeping the 4th. I believe the Coca-Cola sponsorship should have been all of Selena's money because it was Selena who was modeling for Coca-Cola and doing commercials for Coca-Cola. Now, I believe that Abraham should have gotten his cut in the Coca-Cola deal because Abraham is her manager. So I believe the only 2 people who should have been getting any money from Coca-Cola is mainly Selena and partly Abraham. Shouldn't nobody else have been getting no money from Coca-Cola? Didn't nobody else do no commercials or no modeling? So that's my opinion on that. They divided the money from the Coca-Cola sponsorship as well, with the family splitting the first 3 payments in a year 3 ways and Selena keeping the 4th. With the family splitting the first 3 payments in a year 3 ways. So the first 3 payments went to the family, and then the 4th payment came in, and that went to Selena. I get it. I understand it. The band members got to be paid. Fine, right? But when it comes to the family, Selena should get first dibs on any kind of freaking payment because she was doing all the dancing and the singing. Okay. Suzette was the drummer. AB was the bass player, and Chris was the guitarist, and they had the pianist, and they had the backup singers. I get all that. But we ain't even talking about the rest of the band. We're just talking about the family members who were in the band. I believe Selena should have gotten first dibs. What Chris just said right here in this paragraph confirms that Selena was not getting first dibs. Okay? So you get what Chris was saying. He was saying some things, but then he was backtracking and trying to clean it up and say other things to try to make it sound like he was not trying to put the family down, but really he just sat here and told us the truth. And then he went back on what he said to try to clean it up. You guys get what's going on? Okay. Moving on. The longer I knew and loved Selena, the clearer it became that she loved me in part because I accepted her completely. No matter what she wanted to try, whatever it was, something was small as wanting that aquarium, headboard, or new dog, or a plan as complex as starting a fashion business on top of her musical career. I loved... My screen timed out. It always does this. I loved Selena for who she was and never put up the kind of resistance she often felt from her family and even from certain friends. Okay, so I know this is off topic, but Sloan Bella did a reading on her today and posted it. And what Sloan Bella said was her family members were from a past life that involved them being against her because she did not participate in partaking in helping pursue a specific agenda that needed to be met. And when she did not agree to partake in this agenda, they locked her away. And these people that were in this past life with her, they were her enemies. And then when she came into the last life, these people were her family members in her last life. These people were her enemies in her Roman time life. So this all makes sense as to why everybody involved in her close circle and extended circles were all against her plans and were all against what she wanted to do. Because what they wanted to do was to try to stop her from getting certain things done in this life. Because her whole sole purpose was to help bring about positivity, love, and helping human beings accomplish raising to higher vibrations. So whatever she would have done and would have gotten completed in her last life, that was her sole purpose, was to help bring about higher vibration, positivity, and love. But they wanted to stop her from doing that. Okay, let's keep going. Her dreams were my dreams. If something was important to Selena, it was important to me too. Of course, you're her spouse. I mean, supposedly you were her soulmate, supposedly. When you find that one person and y'all are going to have a lot in common, you're going to agree on a lot of things, and a lot of y'all's visions are going to be very similar or the same. All right, let's keep going. That's how much I loved her. Selena was quick to appreciate this about me too. Thank you, Chris, she'd say, whenever I supported her position on something. Thank you for helping me. Now, Selena brought the newspaper into the kitchen where I had watched her comb through the classified ads and circle various houses for rent. You really want to move this time? I asked. We had been down this road together before, usually after similar family arguments. Oh, I really do, Selena said. We need to get out of here. So she was so mad and so angry that she was actually making plans to get up out of that house next door to her father. She wanted to get far away from him as she could to just really just get a peace of mind. So this man was driving her insane. I mean, he was literally like the thorn in her side. Moving on. See what else I highlighted. As you guys know, I didn't highlight this entire book because it would take super, super long to get through this book. I just highlighted important points that I wanted to make to you guys, that I want you guys to hear about and see, because it just ties to the points that I made in video number 1. So all these highlighted paragraphs is just proof of what I've already said in video 1. All right, here's the next highlighted paragraph. Let's read. How could you even think about opening another business? Do you know how much time that will take and how much harder you're making your life? Why don't you just enjoy the money you're making? Selena held firm. It's what I want to do, Dad, she said, and it's my life. Still not willing to give up on dissuading his daughter, Abraham pulled me aside next. You can't let her do this, he said desperately. She'll burn herself out. And of course, Abraham would say all these things. He would try to make himself sound and seem like he really cared about her burning herself out. But what he really cared about was her not getting distracted from singing, because her singing, that is his paycheck. Let's keep going. I get why you're worried about her biting off more than she can chew, I said gently. But this is something she really wants to do, and I'm not going to tell Selena no. If anything, I'll do whatever I have to do to help her. Despite his own ambitious nature, Abraham thought that Selena was making a huge mistake. He couldn't really stop her, though. Selena Selena and I were financially independent, and as I had already realized, Abraham never really did control Selena as much as other people thought he did, especially after she married me. So he's contradicting what he said, but then again, he's not. What he basically is saying is ever since Selena married him, Selena has gained a lot of independence, and she has been successfully pulling away from her father in ways that she previously couldn't when she wasn't married to him. But at the same time, he's contradicting what he's saying because he's saying that, let's reread what he just said. Despite his own ambitious nature, Abraham thought that Selena was making a huge mistake. He couldn't really stop her, though. Selena and I were financially independent, and as I already realized, Abraham never really controlled Selena as much as other people thought he did. Well, yes, he did control her. Yes, he did. Before Selena married Chris, yes, Abraham did have full and total control over Selena. Now, this statement he's making based on the fact that Selena's not married to him. So the married Selena was able to successfully pull away from her father in ways that she couldn't before. The unmarried Selena was bound by her father. Okay? So he's contradicting what he's saying, but then again, he's not. It's complicated, I guess. All right. Selena and I were financially independent and as I had already realized, Abraham never really did control Selena as much as other people thought he did, especially after she married me. Okay, so basically he made that comment based on Selena being married to him. He basically just said what I already said. All right, moving on. I think some people may have had the mistaken impression that Abraham dictated every aspect of Selena's life because she often relied on him to run interference for her. If someone came to her with an idea that didn't thrill her, she would say, "That sounds interesting, but you need to talk to my dad." This happened many times as Selena got more popular and more people tried to convince her to invest in one thing or another that they were working on. "I'll have to run it by my dad," she would say, but that was simply her way of ending the conversation. So when Selena came to me one night and said, "Okay, Chris, I'm ready to open my boutique. I don't want to wait anymore. Let's go shopping for a building," I knew there was nothing that Abraham could do to dissuade her. As I had told Abraham, I would help her any way I could. But first, I had to be sure that Selena knew what kind of work was involved. "You're going to be busier than you already are," I reminded her. "And you already don't have enough hours in the day." "We can do it," she promised. "I'm not going to do all of the work. I'll get people to help me." "You really want this, huh?" I asked. "What do you think?" She made a face at me. "You've only been listening to me talk about this for 2 years, but I've wanted a boutique of my own since I was a little kid." "Okay then," I said, "let's get it going." So, like I said, this boutique was her dream. It wasn't Abraham's dream. Abraham wanted her to keep singing, and he didn't want her to do nothing that had anything to do with doing anything that was outside of singing, because he didn't want nothing to ruin her career, because he didn't want nothing to ruin his paycheck. Moving on. Her mom was the only member of the family who supported Selena's dream as immediately and completely. Like I said in video number 1, besides Chris himself, Selena's mom was the only other person that supported her and her dreams and ambitions. The father wasn't interested and wasn't supportive, and neither was her siblings or outside friends. Her mom was the only member of the family who supported Selena's dream as immediately and completely as I did. Selena has wanted to do this ever since she was a little girl, she told me. I'm so glad she's got you to help her. So that was, I believe, Selena's mother saying that to Chris, that she was so glad that Selena has Chris to help her. All right, moving on. The stores had local managers on site. In fact, my sister Trisha was managing the San Antonio boutique. So I didn't know this. I didn't know that Chris's sister was one of the managers at Selena's boutiques in San Antonio. So that's an interesting fact. But if I can't be there to do something, I'll feel better knowing that Yolanda will take care of it, Selena told me. Now, see, this is the start of this whole shit. Selena trusted and confided in the wrong person. Let's keep reading. I agree with her decision. Selena was trying to juggle too much in her life, and Yolanda had proven her loyalty. Whatever. Abraham, too, thought that the idea made sense. He was relieved to have any amount of stress lifted off his daughter's shoulders. Yolanda was put on salary, and Selena gave her a credit card and a cell phone she could use for business purposes. The more support Selena got for her new venture, the better, I thought. I was already out of my depth with the businesses, and I just wanted my wife to be happy. So everyone in Selena's immediate circle felt and thought this way. They wanted all the stress to be relieved off of her. They wanted the best for her. They wanted to get as much help as they could get for her. And that's a normal, natural thing. Any family member will want that for another family member. I would want that for my children. I would want that for my spouse or my siblings. You know, if they got a whole lot of workload on them, I would want them to have as much help as they could get to get the workload off of them so they could be successful in other ventures. So what I just read here, that's totally normal. The family wanted Selena to have help. Yolanda was the help that they was looking for. But little did they know that Yolanda was a backstabbing, self-serving. I'm not going to say the rest, but you all get my drift, right? Moving on. I never saw Yolanda as a threat. Of course y'all didn't. Nobody did. Nobody saw this shit coming. She was one of them damn snakes. A snake is sneaky like that. She was like all of those girls in high school I used to feel sorry for because they seemed to have no lives of their own. There was no reason to ever suspect that she was dangerous. In a weird way, I think that all of us were probably even more accepting of her than we might have been if Yolanda had been another kind of woman, pretty or ambitious or clever, because we were so determined to judge her not by her looks or her talents, but by where her heart was. I will regret every day I lived that I was so blind. Don't all the family feel that way, right? In my defense, I was young. I was in love. I had friends and a wife I adored. I was making music in a band that was increasingly successful, and I was making plenty of money. The way I saw things, Selena and I had a bright future ahead of us. My main concern was that Selena was as happy as I was, and that seemed to be true. There was just one small thing that, looking back on it, probably should have been a red flag. It happened at one of our annual band parties. Soon after I became involved with Selena, Yolanda started arranging annual parties for the band members, their families, and close friends every year. Selena and I loved those parties. We thought it was cool to hang out in a restaurant or some other regular place with everybody together. Ironically, because our band was always working, it was difficult for us to find much time to socialize together. Gradually, as the years passed, however, I started to sense a growing distance and even a weird vibe between Yolanda and some of the other people at the parties. I didn't know it at the time, but Yolanda had started taking her role as Selena's personal assistant to the next level. People who wanted to reach Selena would increasingly have to get around Yolanda first. Suzette would stand up for Yolanda if anyone complained about her, though, and Selena herself would say, send them to Yolanda if someone wanted to see her, and Selena, too, was too busy, which was often the case. Anyway, at one of these band parties, the restaurant bathroom was vandalized, and Selena heard from Yolanda that I had been involved in it with some other guys. Remembering the way I had gotten drunk and trashed that hotel room the year before our marriage, no doubt, made Selena even more suspicious. "Did you trash that bathroom, Chris?" she asked. Yolanda said you did. No, I said. You know I couldn't have done that. Selena, you were where I was. We were together the whole time. Oh, okay, Selena said, and we moved on to talk about something else. The conversation didn't really register with me at the time because of the band's success. Selena and I were always swatting away silly rumors. Maybe that's why I didn't see this conversation for what it really was. A warning sign that Yolanda was trying to come between Selena and me, the same way that she was trying to make sure that Selena didn't get too close to anyone else. And that's normal, because when you got so much going on in your life and you're busy and everything is just everything, and you ain't got time to be like thinking twice about anything or getting too much involved into anything, or you just don't have time in your mind for all the damn drama, so you're not going to think twice about anything. When they had all of this stuff going on at that time in their lives, they were distracted by the bands traveling and touring and commercial dates and all this stuff going on that they had. They was distracted by all that. They didn't really have time to pay attention to the warning signs. So this was like a perfect opportunity for Yolanda to strike the way that she did. All right, moving on. Don't think I highlighted anything else, did I? I don't think I did. I think that's all I highlighted. But yeah, I think that was the end of my highlights. So I didn't really highlight the end of the book where it talked about her death and all this stuff. I didn't do all that because we already know what happened. But what I will say, what I said just a few seconds ago, it all just ties into what I said in video number 1, that on one side, Selena had Yolanda in her ear, manipulating her, telling her lies, and stealing from her. And on the other side, she had her father telling her what to do, trying to control her life, trying to control her decisions, and trying to continue this success that he has had for so many years of making her the singer and his slave, making him and his family some money. And he didn't want nobody to come in between that, okay? Abraham wasn't going for that shit. He wasn't going. So you got the ingredient of the controlling father and the lying, manipulative, psychopathic person. You put the ingredients of these two people together, and that was the complete ingredient of her demise. Because Abraham was such of a helicopter parent, Selena was not equipped to see the warning signs. She was naive because she was so structured and protected and kept away from a lot of things that could have taught her something about the streets. And when you are street smart, then you know what warning signs to look for. You know what warning signs to pay attention to. If something small just stands out even a little bit, you're going to be like, that just don't sound right. Or, that just don't make any damn sense. Or, why the hell has she got a gun for? Or, like the fact that she had a gun that first time before she returned it and got it the second time, that should have been the first red flag to Selena. And it should have been the first sign right there to give Selena information that, okay, something is just not right about this person. And the fact that she got a gun, this woman could be very dangerous. But Selena didn't think of it like that. Selena was just too trusting. She was too naive and too gullible to see what was right in front of her. So when Yolanda had that gun the first time and Selena saw it that first time, that should have been enough of alarming bells right there. That should have been like the first cue right there. But I think because Selena was not that familiar with how people really truly are, she was not familiar with how fucked up people really could truly be. Unfortunately, she wasn't able to see the warning signs that were right in front of her. I believe it was another book I read by another author, and it mentioned in that book that Selena saw Yolanda with a gun the first time, and Selena said to Yolanda, "What are you doing with that gun? Put it away or get rid of it," or something like that. But when that happened, that should have been the first red flag there. But Selena missed it. She missed it, unfortunately. So when you got manipulative people and you got liars and you got helicopter parents and you got all this stuff going on, it doesn't protect you from a naive mindset, unfortunately. And if Abraham just allowed her to be the adult that she truly was, I think she probably would have been a little bit more equipped to handle and see the warning signs, but she just didn't, unfortunately. And like I said in video number 1, Abraham could have done a better job with how he treated his daughter. He made her the funnel for his income, which was shitty. And because he did that, he put her in the line of fire and in a path to where her life was taken. His greed costed her her life. His selfishness costed her her life. Now, had he allowed her to just do what she wanted to do with her life, she would still be here today. And I believe Sloan Bella mentioned something about the sister, Suzette, and there was abuse in the family. She didn't really connect the dots well enough, but I'm going to study that and keep on trying to reread some things that I've already read many years ago and try to piece some things together and try to find out what Sloan Bella meant by that. So there was abuse in the family. We don't know who the abuse was with, but she did mention the sister, so the sister is just one clue. So another harsh truth. Abuse happens in families, man. Nobody's family is perfect. There is no such thing as a perfect family. It just does not exist anymore. Even my family is not perfect. None of our families are. So there's something there about the family that Selena did not want Yolanda to spill the beans about. And that's what they argued about in that room in 158. And when Selena got sick and tired of Yolanda and she had finally realized Yolanda for who she truly was and what she truly was, Selena wanted to walk up out of that room and just say, you know what, I'm done with you. Like she was getting ready to walk up out of there and just be done with Yolanda because she had finally realized Yolanda was just bullshitting and that Yolanda was a liar and that once she finally realized that and she had gotten to that point, she was just done with her. She was completely done with Yolanda. But Yolanda snapped. Yolanda did not want to lose her job or her income. Yolanda did not want to lose the power she had working for Selena. She didn't want to lose none of her things. So when she was going to lose all those things, that meant that Yolanda's life was going to be over. Like over. And I'm sure she did not want to go back to nursing. So Yolanda just snapped and shot her. Okay? In that exact moment. Selena had had enough of the bullshit and she was finna walk up out of that room. And that was Selena saying, I've had enough. And that was Selena snapping by just turning around and walking away. And I guess Yolanda was like, you ain't finna walk from me or walk away from me. So she shot her. Okay. Whatever else they argued about in that room, it had something to do with Selena's family secret. And Yolanda wanted to blackmail Selena by telling Selena, well, if you fire me, I'm going to tell this secret. And Selena was like, well, you can't do this. You can't tell my family secret, blah, blah, blah. That's my family you talking about. And when she finally realized that Yolanda was probably just going to tell the secret anyway, she was just probably in her mind like, fuck it, I'm just walking away. And she just had enough and she was done with her. And Yolanda just did not want Selena to be done with her, so she shot her. And that's that. I will be doing some more projects, probably like a documentary type thing on Selena. So look for that video to be coming soon. And thank you guys for listening. I hope you guys enjoyed this 3-part series. And like I always say, do you live your best life, get yourself together, and no robot behaviors over here. See y'all in the next video. Peace. Later.